Right now, in the next 3 to 6 months, is going to be the very best time to buy a home here in Chicago. We're gonna break down some of the dynamics of the market and why I think that this is gonna be the very best time in the next 3 to 6 months here in Chicago in order to capitalize. And so we're gonna talk about things such as the interest rate environment and how that impacts you as a buyer and as a seller. We're also gonna talk about some of the markets or the neighborhoods where I think that you can get some crazy deals right now. And we're also just gonna talk a little bit more about the supply and demand dynamics and why I think that going into this election season is going to be this prime opportunity. So let's get into it. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Jordan Pyle and I'm your go-to Chicago real estate agent. My team and I have been servicing the city of Chicago now for the last 11 years and we'd be absolutely honored to help you achieve your real estate goals. We get texts, emails, phone calls from people just like yourself daily thinking about making a move to Chicago or potentially moving around in Chicago. And so if we can be of service to you or be a resource, our team would love to help. You can just text the number on the screen and a team member or myself will get in touch within 24 hours. Also, if you're not quite ready to reach out and start in this process and engage with us, and you just want to find out more information and be in the know about all things Chicago, well, feel free to sign up for our bi-weekly newsletter. No obligation. You can literally unsubscribe at any time. All the information and the link is down in the description. So without further ado, if this has been valuable to you, please do us a favor, like, comment, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you can be the first to know about all things Chicago. All right, let's go. All right, so as I mentioned, I think the next 3 to 6 months is really just going to be this perfect storm for buyers and for you to be able to secure a great deal in the Chicago real estate market. So as I mentioned at the start of the video, I'm gonna talk a little bit about the interest rates. We're gonna talk about some of the neighborhoods that I think you're gonna be able to get great deals. We're also gonna just talk about this election season and why that will lead to a difference in the supply and demand dynamics in the market. So to start off, just kind of the macro level, we're in 2024 heading into an election season. Here in Chicago, typically the busiest time of the year, and for you as a buyer, the most competitive time of the year is somewhere between February and early June. This is when the majority of transactions actually happen. And the reason is because the Chicago real estate sales cycle is actually tied very closely to the rental cycle, with over 50% of the Chicago population being renters versus homeowners. You have a lot of leases that come due in months such as March, April, May, June. And so the activity for those people that are going from a lease to own scenario, they're not necessarily buying or going under contracts on homes in those same months that their leases are expiring. Typically, they're actually going to be starting and going under contract in that process of purchasing a home 2 to 3 months prior to the end of their lease end date. And so that's why we see a lot of uptick on activity starting in like February. After we get through like the Super Bowl, that's kind of our unofficial start to the spring market. And so that is really the time where things are just a little bit crazy. You see a ton of buyer demand flood into the market. You see a lot of new listings coming on the market. And those listings in the last 3 to 4, 5 years, really since the pandemic, they've just been gobbled up because there's an extreme over demand compared to the amount of inventory or supply of homes. And so the first part of this year in 2024, it's just been very competitive. So if you're trying to buy a home in Chicago, as a first-time buyer, it's very limited inventory. And so every time you go out and you find a property that you want to make an offer on, the chances were that you're going to be competing against multiple offers. There's going to be bids up and over asking price, and you're going to be able to have to kind of throw the kitchen sink at a seller in order to get your offer accepted. And then also for people that maybe own a home currently and they're thinking about moving up in the market, which is what I refer to as a move-up buyer, well, they've been kind of handcuffed, and they've been handcuffed because they're a double-edged sword. They have to sell in this market, which is great because, like I said, there's barely any inventory, so they can sell, get their home under contract for a great price with great terms, but they're also a buyer in this market. And so it's a little bit complicated when you have to actually go and make an offer on a property with a home sale contingency in order to unlock those proceeds or the that equity that's in your home in order to buy the next home, because you have to incorporate what's called a home sale contingency. And in a competitive market, most sellers don't want to run the risk of accepting an offer with a home sale contingency. So for a few different reasons, with the election, we're actually starting to see a downtick in interest rates, because earlier this year they were hovering in that like 7.1 to 7.25, even upwards of 7.5% for a 30-year fixed. We're now starting to see those interest rates come down. Just yesterday I had somebody quoted at a 6.435 And that is the lowest that I've seen in a really long time. So as interest rates come down, affordability goes way up. And so now your bang for your buck and your dollar takes you a lot further, and you have a lot more affordability, making more inventory available to you, whether it's from a purchase price standpoint, but more importantly from the cost of a monthly mortgage that is comfortable for you. And so as we turn the corner into the back half of the year and we start to have, the election and the debates happening, a lot of different things start to put a little bit of hesitancy into the market. And for you as a buyer, that is a perfect time to capitalize. The reason being is a lot of people are holding to see what happens in the election. People are getting through the summer right now, and so kids are out of school. There's just other things that are going on. People are traveling, and there's just overall less activity in the market. And for you as a buyer that's motivated, ready, willing, and able, this is the perfect time to strike. This is the perfect time for you as a first-time buyer, because right now, rental rates, even though home sales are at their peaks, rental rates are actually even further at their peaks, meaning it's very, very unaffordable in most cities around the country, Chicago also being one of them, where rental rates are they don't really make sense right now. And so the cost to own versus the cost to rent, it may be more affordable in the short term to still rent, but in the long term, when you take into consideration the fact that you're owning a home, you're paying down principal, you're building up equity in your property, you're getting tax write-offs, over the scope of a 5, 10, 15, 30-year period, owning a home still makes more sense, especially with these inflated rental rates. So for you as a first-time buyer, if you're moving out of a lease into a property to own, I think that this is a great time for you to capitalize for those reasons. And so that's one side of the market. The next side I kind of touched on a little bit ago, which is the move-up buyers. And so now with interest rates coming down, and now with the market being slightly less competitive, you as a buyer that has to sell your current home before you can buy your next one, there's a lot stronger chance that you're going to be able to negotiate and get an offer accepted with that home sale contingency. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a big risk for sellers to accept this home sale contingency, but now that things are sitting on the market longer, there's less buyers out there, so they're not necessarily getting multiple offers quite as frequently as they were before, and not necessarily being able to test the market quite as much. This is that time where you can come in as a solid buyer with a pre-approval that states that you can afford that home as long as you sell and you get the proceeds out of your current home. And so unlike earlier parts of the year where it's damn near impossible to actually get those offers accepted, now is a time in the next 3 to 6 months, I would say particularly between now and about November, December, for you to be able to write a strong offer. And there's two benefits to this. First benefit is what we said, is you're gonna be able to get your home sale contingency offer accepted. Not all the time, but there's a higher chance of doing that. But now you can also negotiate off of the asking price. And so versus paying maybe 5 to 10% over asking, you may be able to come in 5 to 10% lower than asking, negotiate and end up somewhere slightly around fair market value versus over fair market value. And so for those of you that need to sell your home in order to buy, this is a great opportunity because now you're able to sell, you're able to capitalize on a solid price, maybe not the highest price because you're also a seller in this slower market, but now you can actually make money on the purchase. You never make money when you're selling a home, you make money in how you buy that home. So if you can buy right now in the next 3 to 6 months, that's going to help your overall scenario and allow you to build in equity right out of the gate versus starting from a deficit. So all that being said, we think, and the Fed is starting to indicate that starting in September, they're going to start bringing the prime interest rate down, basically the baseline interest rate. And so they're thinking that it's going to be about a 0.25% drop starting in September, and then there will be a series of additional drops after that, which is going to bring the mortgage interest rates down, which is going to unlock inventory because more sellers are going to hit the market. And then we're also going to unlock affordability because now your mortgage payment, because of the lower rate over the 30-year fixed mortgage, is going to equate to a smaller monthly mortgage payment. And so that being said, on top of the election, the uncertainty in the market, I think as soon as we hit January, February 2025, the market's going to change and it's going to become very competitive again. Because of this lower of interest rates, you're going to see a lot of buyers flood into the market because maybe they can afford something now that maybe they weren't able to afford in the first half of 2024. And so, like I said at the start of this video, I think if you're wanting to capitalize on the market right now and secure a good deal and get a deal in a time where maybe there's a little bit more hesitancy in the market, maybe there's a little more inventory, maybe sellers are a little bit more motivated, well, I think the next 3 months ideally is the time to do that. And so all that being said, I know I also mentioned that I wanted to address some neighborhoods that I think you're gonna be able to get really good deals. And my team and I, we service primarily the city center and then the north and northwest side of the city. And so on these videos, that's primarily the neighborhoods that I discuss. And in those neighborhoods, there's basically a tale of two cities. So what I mean by that is the downtown market, the more dense market with high rises, closer to the city center. For somebody that's maybe moving from out of town, that's like anywhere from like Navy Pier moving north, a couple miles. That market is actually more of a buyer's market, meaning there's a lot of supply, not as much demand. And so you're starting to see, days on market or months of inventory closer to that like 3 to 4 months of inventory. And anything over about 4 months of inventory or at 4 months is where it flips from being a seller's market where the seller has the leverage to a buyer's market. I'm starting to see buyers wanting to buy a condo in a high-rise downtown, and whether it be River North, Streeterville, Gold Coast, sometimes in Old Town, or even the Loop or the West Loop, and being able to negotiate fiercely and get a really, really good deal. Like I said earlier, maybe 5, 10, sometimes even 15% under asking price, depending on the property. So if you're going up a little bit more north though, into like these residential areas such as, Lincoln Park, Lakeview, maybe west of the highway in Bucktown, Wicker Park, well, this market still remains pretty competitive. And I do think compared to the first half of 2024, there's still a lot better chance to get a good deal on a property, but it's not the same market as the downtown. So if you're wanting to, whether it be buy a second home here in Chicago, maybe you want to buy an investment property, or maybe it's a starter condo in the downtown market in Chicago, well, that is going to be your prime areas for you to be able to capitalize. If you're still wanting Lincoln Park and Lakeview, well, working with our team, figuring out how we can be competitive, how we can uncover the maximum amount of inventory for you to find the perfect place for you, there's still the opportunity to get a good deal there. But as I mentioned, Streeterville, River North, Gold Coast, West Loop, and the Loop, those are probably the 5 primary markets that I personally work and our team works, where you can get a screaming deal right now. And so I hope this video has been helpful. I think the overall consensus is we've been in an incredibly strong, competitive market for the last 3 or 4 years. The tides are starting to turn. We're starting to see things equalize a little bit. And this is going to really unlock some more opportunities for people to become homeowners or to be able to buy a home at a discounted price or with a little bit better terms than maybe you could do in the first part of the year. And so if you have any questions about purchasing a home here in Chicago, maybe you're moving from out of state. I've been helping a ton of people coming from, less affordable states such as California, New York, Boston, San Francisco, even Austin, Texas. I'm getting a lot of people moving into Chicago because we're still a very affordable big city. And so if that's you, or maybe you're just thinking about selling your current home here in Chicago and then wanting to purchase a new one and you're moving up in the market, well, we can definitely assist you with that too. So feel free, if you have any questions whatsoever, we can just have a real estate strategy call with you, talk about your options, see what makes sense for you specifically, because it's definitely not a one-size-fits-all approach here, but we can talk to you about your goals and how our team can help you get from point A to point B. And so feel free to just text the number on the screen if you want to talk to our team. We'll get in touch within 24 hours. Also, as I mentioned, if you want to just subscribe to our newsletter, and even if you are ready to buy and you were reaching out to our team and you want to get information about Chicago, well, the link down in the description is for our bi-weekly newsletter. No obligation, unsubscribe anytime. And before you go, if this has been valuable, share it with a friend, like this video, comment, subscribe, turn on your notifications so you can catch all of our future videos. And then also there's some other videos on the screen here that I think may be valuable to you. So until next time, talk to you later. Peace.